welcoming you back to the desk of Caddicarus. Join us as we partake into a new installment of Current Quickies.
Hello my duckies, and this time we're going to be having a look at Hotline Miami 2, wrong number. This game is very good. I stumbled across Hotline Miami 1 by complete accident when I was browsing the PS Store one day on my Vita, and after buying and playing it, I was pleasantly surprised by how awesome it was. I wasn't expecting a sequel in any way, so again, I was pleasantly surprised by how this was a thing. But the question is, how is it then? Well,
this game, like I just said, is very good. Hotline Miami 2 will speak extremely similarly to fans of the original, and while it does do enough differently to make itself stand out, I think in some areas it degrades from the overall experience because of its differences. While either way, in terms of the really good things, this game is exactly like the original with what it does right. The game plays out the same way: start a mission, enter buildings, keep out of sight to keep safe, kill any enemy as quickly and efficiently as possible using any weapon that you can grab, gain combos, and if you don't pay attention, die in one hit against the insanely aggressive AI. It's great that nothing much has changed on that front. The gameplay is still slick, fast-paced, fucking difficult, and really rewarding. The music is perfectly fitting, adrenaline pumping, and techno-styled bliss, and the presentation is still highly detailed, gory as all hell, and very trippy with its backdrops. What's great though is that as a sequel, a few of the elements there are tweaked and given a little bit more oomph. For instance, I love the additional visual flares like the rain effect in some of the stages, and the increased diversity of the areas overall, including outdoor jungle areas alongside the sinister Miami buildings. Also, the game's difficulty as a whole I found to be a little bit higher than the first game, something I really like for a game that plays like this. Not to mention, I believe that this game is even a little bit longer. I might be wrong about that, but it definitely feels a lot longer to me. I also like the way the plot went a little bit more multi-timeline by jumping back and forth between time periods and letting you take control of different people as their stories all wrap around each other towards the end of the game. Almost like a Tarantino movie. Because of multiple characters though, the huge array of masks and different abilities are no longer a factor, as each character has a limited selection of different weapons to pick or different abilities every so often, with masks rarely. Honestly, that massively disappoints me, but what I do like is the way that they work around that by designing the levels perfectly around the limitations of your flexibility before starting a stage. You have to beat most of the levels in this game under the game's rules alone sometimes, and you have to work with your new limitations, which I actually really like, especially when some characters refuse to actually kill anybody, meaning having to knock them out, or people that won't use guns at all. This game is practically a string of really good challenges that always feel very different and interesting, unlike the first game where you're the same character with the same abilities to pick from in the beginning of every stage, and you tackle every stage in the first game pretty much the same way, which this sequel definitely doesn't let you do, and I can commend it for forcing you to experiment with every stage. Other than that though, it's very much like the first one, so I can't say much else on the good stuff.
saying that though, there's a few things here that I didn't really like.
The first thing I didn't like actually goes against what I said earlier slightly. Even though I really like the idea and direction of multiple characters and multiple timelines, this unfortunately means the plot had to be much more streamlined. And I don't have a problem with that for the sake of not overcomplicating the characters, but what made the original stand out was the philosophical meaning behind it all and the weird psychological shit that made you stop and think for a second. And of course, just trip you the hell out every so often. In this game, that stuff is kind of gone except for the ending, which also looks incredible. And even though what we have plot-wise is good, it just feels a little bit more generic overall because of that, with no specific messages and no major meaning behind it all. Not to mention ending very suddenly and pointlessly as far as I'm concerned. Wasn't very happy with the ending. And yeah, there are alternate endings, but still it didn't really add much for me. I also said earlier that the multiple characters means less amounts of abilities between them, and less masks. And yes, while the game does design the levels and challenges around limiting you and leaving everything up to your skill alone, so credit is definitely due there, it still is very disappointing losing the vast amount of different masks and abilities to unlock and experiment with. The abilities in the first game were mostly unlocked by doing well during each level, so the huge lack of things to actually unlock in this game means there's little incentive to experiment in each level or push yourself to get a high score. And like I said, that's slightly disappointing to me. Also, the music is really good here, but I don't know, am I the only one that found it kind of forgettable? I remember all the tracks from the first game, but nothing really sunk in here. Am I the only one here? Ah, whatever, that's a nitpick. Overall, I wouldn't say that Hotline Miami 2 was better than the first one, and I'd definitely say the original was more memorable over the aspects that I didn't like with this sequel, but it's still a really damn fine game, and I recommend it for the similar quality and love put into here like the original. And if you like the first one, this game does do enough differently to stand out whilst keeping familiar to what made the original so great, and it's a very fucking tricky and fantastic challenge, not to mention available on loads of devices and at a great price, so you can't really go wrong either way.
This game gets an 8 out of fucking 10.
Hello everyone, and thanks so much for watching this fast-talking video about Hotline Miami 2. And if you'd like to consider supporting the show even further, if you go in the description, there are 2 links. One goes to a new company I'm partnered with called Appman. Appman are very cool. All you do basically is download apps and then complete challenges and then delete the apps again. You can do whatever you want and you earn points, and then you convert the points into vouchers for Amazon, Steam, PlayStation, Xbox. It's a really cool service. And the other link is for my Games Grabber collection, so you can see what games I've got on my shelves, and like video equipment as well. That's always pretty handy. And right now on Games Grabber, there's a competition for Disney Infinity Starter Pack 2.0, and it's of any console of your choice. So the competition's limited time only, but that's all explained in the link in the description, so go and have a look at that. And of course, if it's your birthday today or watching this video, happy frickin' birthday to you, and please remember to stay beautiful.